Hey, seventh grade, just getting a drink of water and starting pod. Sorry about that. Let's jump right in because I know that you guys might be working on your Sources of Strength Trusted Adult campaign, which we'll talk about in a second. So, first up, know that you are in the final stretch run or prime time of second trimester. So if you're somebody who wants to improve your grades, which we should always be looking to grow and improve, you have time, but you better get on it. All right. If you're way down low in a D or an F, it might be tough to get all the way to an A, but you certainly, depending on the class, have some room to grow. All right. And I'll always remind you guys that grades become a little bit more meaningful the older you get all the time. Okay, there's consequences like maybe staying in for a recess at first. Pretty soon you're going to summer school and losing electives and then having to lose credit and maybe not graduate. So grades will definitely become more meaningful as you get older, like I said. So you have time to improve them? Let's do it. Tuesday Tunes start today with the sixth grade playlist, which is going to be fun for me because as much as I love music, I'm not very plugged into the current popular music scene. So I'll learn some new stuff. They gave us some goodies and some oldies. So see your student council rep. I think they have a plan to do some polling in one of your, what are they called, daily check-ins in some of your classes. So remember, make sure they're appropriate. Sixth grade had one or two songs I had to veto, but hopefully they're fun and get us moving. We have some fun on Tuesdays, and we'll see if we like it as we do it today. All right. Miss Clark and Mrs. Bollinger and some of our wonderful student peer leaders from the Sources of Strength program have a video that you'll watch today, or maybe you do it some other time this week. And they're helping us build the beaver dam of support and trust that you can see take shape in the front hallway up there. All right. This is going to be a fun program that's part of our school from now on. The Sources of Strength program will do different campaigns, little activities school-wide. This is the first one to help every single student out there to recognize that you have hopefully at least one adult in the building that you feel comfortable going to if you need to talk to somebody. We certainly hope that you have plenty of people at home for that too, but we want to point out that we hopefully all have one trusted adult in the building. All right. So for our Sources of Strength, we're still on Unit 3, Thoughts, Emotions, and Decisions. And last week we covered why we can have some unhelpful thoughts, often from strong emotions. So we need to figure out what to do with those unhelpful thoughts because they certainly can lead to some less than ideal actions, right? I always remind you of that story of when I had headbutted a mirror when I was in middle school because I was frustrated about a wrestling match. Not a very helpful action for my head, or I had to pay for it a little bit too. So there are tips for that when you have those strong emotions, which will, you can cut those off or at least maybe reframe them or calm down in that moment. You can stop that process before the unhelpful words or actions come out of you. So try a strategy for managing your emotions like slowing down your breathing. Always a good idea. Walking away or just walking in general certainly is one that works for me. And for some people, counting can just slow your biology, your breathing, your heart rate a little bit. Okay. And part of this is working to recognize when those things are boiling up in you. And we always tell you don't suppress them. Sometimes those emotions need to be felt, but before they come out in an inappropriate way, in an inappropriate word or action, try one of these. You could also, if it's a lingering thought, it's not in the moment, it's negative and it's unhelpful, you can reframe it. Remember we had in that lesson, you could kind of drag a little slide across the frame and it could show that things that are maybe seen in a negative light could be seen in a different light if you ask yourself some questions. Am I assuming that something bad will happen? I work with my daughter on this, that she sometimes jumps to the worst case scenario all the time. Am I assuming that the other person was doing it on purpose? They're intentionally mean. Maybe it was just sort of an innocent mistake. And then can you learn something from this situation? So manage the emotion, reframe the negative thought into some positivity, which leads us to our lesson today, which is right here, I think. Yeah, cool. My face is kind of in the way. So practicing positive self-talk. We have a couple good videos to watch. Before we do that, let's have a warm-up. So in your brain up here, I want you to think. You don't have to shout any out. Oh, I have to actually click on the thing. I couldn't remember how to get through this. Been a while. It says to write down, but we don't have a worksheet in front of us. Just think about some things that went wrong today or yesterday. Okay, think for a second. Things that went wrong. Maybe you got up late. Didn't have their favorite meal for breakfast or in the cafeteria. Maybe your team in the Super Bowl lost yesterday, something like that. Okay, did you think of a few things in that time? If I gave you 30 seconds, I bet you'd come up with a few. And the flip side of that, still thinking about yesterday and today, what are some things that went right? Can you think of those? Maybe your team won yesterday, I don't know. Hey, but try to think about that for a while. And this video, and I always wish I remembered how to get my face out of the way and then bring it back, but I never do. Talks about negativity bias. If you've heard of that before, you probably haven't, but it's a really good video. Talks about the way our brains naturally work, and I'm going to let it play right now.
Was it easier for you to come up with things that went wrong than things that went right? Me too. Turns out, this is a universal human behavior. In general, people focus more on the negative than the positive. Scientists even have a name for it. They call it negativity bias. But how exactly do they know about this bias? You can measure brain activity by putting what's called electrodes on the brain. Let's say you hook up electrodes to a bunch of people and you show them a series of pictures. The pictures aren't positive or negative. Then you show them a positive picture and you see how long it takes the brain to react. The brain will react, but it takes several seconds. If you show them a negative picture, the brain reacts immediately. And by the way, if you give people a choice, they'll continue looking at the negative picture longer. Have you ever noticed how someone can say lots of nice things to you, but if they say one mean thing, you end up thinking about the mean thing for hours or even days? This is because people are hardwired for negativity. But why? Scientists think the negativity bias kept our ancestors alive. If we missed a threat, it could be fatal. But if we missed an opportunity, it wasn't a big deal. The problem is, the world we live in now is very different from the world our ancestors lived in. Now, scientists are finding that people who have a positivity bias live longer, are healthier, and even get paid more. So what exactly are we supposed to do with all of this? Here's the cool thing. You're in charge. You actually have a lot more power than you think. You can change your brain and make it more positive. So just be positive, right? It sounds easy, and you've probably heard it 1,000 times before, but now you know it's not a natural thing for humans to do. So it takes some hard work and real practice to make it into a habit that will turn your negativity bias into a positivity bias.
Okay, pretty fascinating stuff. Okay, just biologically how we are trained to focus on that. Makes me think of social media and the internet. And I don't think you guys use TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat a little better than adults do, but we tend to focus on all these terrible news stories or even misinformation. I don't think it's very good. So why can it be difficult to pay attention to the positives? Just because of the way that our brain synapses work, that we almost, because we needed to watch out for the things that could hurt us, needed to pay attention to that more in the brain. Okay, and it's just a clear-cut category. That's negative, that's bad, possibly dangerous. The good news was that if we fought that and we developed some positive thinking habits, we would be all right. So speaking of that, practice positive self-talk means thinking positive thoughts. You may not actually be saying these words out loud. If you're in a place where you could do that, fine. But it's really just some of these thoughts that you could have that could pull you through some difficult situations. So let's watch this next video. Another good one. This one has some kids talking about the way that they use the power of positive self-talk. All right.
When I say positive things to myself, it makes me feel less overwhelmed. It causes me less stress, and it makes me feel like I can handle whatever I'm stressed about.
Well, during school, it was this test. I mean, not a test, but a project that we had to present. And I just kept thinking about the positive stuff that what I would get from presenting it and being in front of all them people. Like how I would grow out of being shy. When I presented, I was still kind of nervous, but I wasn't as nervous because I just kept thinking I just kept thinking to myself only about the project and just focused only on that and wasn't worried about no one else.
I was super stressed out because right before coronavirus hit and they told us we were going to be closed for 6 weeks, I had a test I hadn't done yet. I'd only had it halfway done. I needed to finish, and I was getting super stressed out. But then I realized, I needed to take deep breaths and say to myself, you know what, Madison, he lets you take it home. You can just finish writing your essay, and then you can turn it back into him through email. And that made me feel a lot better. Sometimes talking to myself in my head in a positive way makes me feel a whole lot better about the situation.
A situation where I can remember saying positive things to myself is when my dad was making negative comments towards my mother. I was obviously stressed and angry, so I went into my room and I repeated these words to myself: "Sun's going down," based on the movie The Avengers, where the Hulk is redeemed, not angry anymore by hearing those words. So I applied that to myself and just sort of calmed myself down.
At the beginning of all of this, the pandemic, I was really stressed. I was like, I'm not going to see my counselor, I'm not going to see my school, I'm not going to see anybody anymore. But then I took a positive side of it and a negative side of it. My negative side was online school. I'm really more of a classroom learner. I was I can't learn online. I'm not good at online school. I'm not good at technology. I hate the classroom. But then a positive side was, I'm okay, this pandemic is happening, but a lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are dying, and I was I'm grateful to be living still.
Okay, some thoughts on that. I like what the last speaker talked about, the bigger picture. Sometimes our negativity bias just makes us focus solely on, oh my gosh, all the terrible things that have happened to just me. You take a broader picture and say, none of this has been fun, especially specifically this COVID pandemic. But a lot of people I know here have been hit not as bad as anybody else. They haven't necessarily got sick, lost their job, things like that. So you really do have to practice that skill for sure, and just sort of tell yourself that you're going to do all right. It's a great skill to have for tests, for competitions, dance competitions, sports, whatever it might be. You have a concert coming up, you're going to do great. A lot of people, and it seems like it's just kind of cheesy. You might tell yourself, I could still fail. You could, but there's actual research to show us that people that think confidently and positively, good things tend to happen for them. Okay, so let's practice noticing the positives in our world today on Tuesday. Think about things that you're good at instead of things that you're terrible at. Everybody has their talents, right? Things that went well today. Okay, the sun came up, you got out of bed, you made it to school. Hopefully the wind's not too bad right now. And then you have some things. Now you might have some things that you wish you had in life, but think about the things that you do have. Okay, and if you can do that, you'll be a happier person. And I said person. Weird. Sorry about that. What's the wrap up? Think about one of the things that went negatively before. What I say is I didn't do that for myself, but I didn't really have a team in the Super Bowl that I cared about. But if that was something for you, you could think about positive spins on that on your handout. Now, we don't have the papers because we're not in person. On your handout, describe the situation, what emotions you felt, what specific positive self-talk you could have used. What I would think about now is certainly I have favorite sports teams, and I'm getting better now that I'm older about when they lose, but I always try to think, what's really not going to impact my life or my family a whole lot. Okay, so slowing down all of those positive thoughts that we talked about before, strategies for trying to calm yourself down. Okay, and then here, I had one more thought to end on, right here, I think. And it's from an old gymnast. And I don't want to say too old because there's probably some of your teachers that remember her. She was a very decorated gold medal winning American gymnast. Mary Lou Retton is her name. I kind of remember, but not very well. She says that optimism is a happiness magnet. If you stay positive, good things and good people will be drawn to you. Totally true. Okay, when I'm feeling negative or I'm around negative people, that breeds more negativity, and that's like a magnet too. And then if you have just 5 people sitting around whining and talking about everything that's terrible, it's not very good. So success people that are also positive will come to you. And optimism is just choosing to say, is this glass half full or half empty? Okay. Certainly things have a negative side, but we can dwell the focus on the positive. All right. Hope you guys can start practicing some positive self-talk to help you at school, at home, wherever you may need it. I look forward to seeing your logs on the Beaver dam of trust over there. And I'm going to stop talking because I can't get any more words out. So have a good Tuesday. Have a good Tunes Tuesday.